Namaste, it's Sahara Rose, and welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, a place where we discuss what makes you your soul's highest evolvement. I am freaking excited for this episode because I feel like consciousness is rising on such a crazy, fast scale. I mean, a couple years ago, people were talking about it, but it was almost like a little bit fringe, a little bit outside. And now it is like front stage, personal to everyone. Whether you're a businessman or a doctor, everyone is experiencing some sort of awakening. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're full on in it. So I'm excited to share this episode with you because we talk a lot about what that means to be having an awakening. What are the symptoms you may be experiencing, whether it is feeling like you're a little bit crazy or hearing things or whatever it is. And when I did the episode last week about embodying your inner witch archetype, so many of you guys reached out to me on social media. My Instagram, by the way, is at I am Sahara Rose. If you're not following me, I posted a really funny witch meme, which really did well, and it was hilarious and scared a couple people, but that's fine. We like finding our core audience here. But a lot of you guys said that you have felt the exact same ways. You shared with me times that you were a child, that you felt like you were in touch with your magic, in touch with your powers, and something scared you away, whether it was a bully or your parents telling you that that's not okay or whatever it is. You know, for me, I shared the story of literally being thrown down a hill and experiencing a concussion because I was practicing magic. So this episode really builds upon that, but also if it's your first time listening is a great place to start because we talk a lot about what it feels like to feel like you're the only one who's having these symptoms. You know, you might feel like you're going mad, but actually you're going through a spiritual awakening because, I mean, there's a pretty big difference here. If your craziness means you're talking about connection and healing your body and energy and vibration, that's not being crazy. That's being in touch with the frequency of the planet. But the thing is, we as a society are so out of touch with that when people talk about these things, we're like, oh, you're so crazy. Whereas if 1,000 years ago, I talked about electricity or Wi-Fi or X-rays or many of the things that we have today, people would have thought I was crazy. If I was like, trust me, we have signals that are going in the air that you can't see, which is true. We have ultraviolet. We have so many different spectrums available to us. But if I had said that even 100 years ago, many people would think I was crazy. So a lot of the things that you are picking up on right now just mean that you're ahead of the time. You know your shit. You can feel it. You're a step ahead of mainstream society, which is a good thing because you never want to be going at their pace because that's how you become a sheeple. So this episode is all about that. We also talk about the importance of mentorship. This has been such a game changer. If I hadn't found, my original mentors when I was 23 years old, I would not be where I am today at all. I don't even know where I would be. And, I do think maybe I could have figured it out on my own, but it would have taken me maybe a lifetime. So mentorship is so important, and it's so important to seek out for help. And again, Together We Empress Mastermind is my new mastermind experience to support you even more fully. So if you feel like you're in a spiritual journey right now, don't be afraid to take that step and get support, because that's exactly what we need to really find our gifts in it all, whether it is Kundalini or making sense of being an empath. One of the girls in our Together We Impress Mastermind, she's really focused on empaths. Another one is focused on bringing consciousness to law and legal work. So there's so many avenues that we can bring spirituality in, whether it is the healthcare industry, the music industry, the flower, the pet food industry, everything we could use some more consciousness in. So don't be afraid of your ideas. Let them flow, and also get the support you need to take them to the next level and manifest them into reality. So Amber, our guest today, is one of my good friends. We geek out on all the spiritual things all the time. She is a light worker. She is pretty much a shaman, though she would never call herself one, but she really is. And she's someone who's just really deeply connected to earth energies, galactic energies, as well as her heart. And she's got a lot of pitta fiery energy too, and you'll be able to feel that. So without further ado, let's welcome Amber Valdez to the Highest Self podcast. Are you ready to share your message with the world in a bigger way? To up-level your business, whether it's through your signature event or your top-ranked podcast or your best-selling book, your flagship program, your unique method. Essentially, you are a woman on a mission, ready to create your femme-powered empire. Well, if this is you, I invite you to apply to my Together We Impress Mastermind, co-facilitated by my dear friends, Sarah Pendrick and Jenna Phillips-Ballard. Essentially, this mastermind is for you if you are a female who is ready to create a personal brand that is raising the vibration of the planet. We're going to be really diving deep, supporting you with weekly calls to live experiential weekends here in LA, expert guests, and so much more. So if you're interested, you're curious, and you're ready to apply, I invite you to head over to togetherweimpress.com. That's Empress with an E, like the Empress that you are. Again, that is togetherweimpress.com. You can find that link in the show notes, and I am so excited to have you join us. Okay, real talk, the product I'm about to tell you about is literally the best thing I've ever put into my mouth, and that is saying a lot. And this is Organifi's Gold. So essentially, it is the hot chocolate of your dreams with none of the sugar and all of the turmeric and reishi, with a touch of ginger as well. It is delicious on its own, just with water. When I was on my Panchakarma and I couldn't have any sugar or chocolate, anything like that, I brought my Organifi Gold with me. Panchakarma approved, and all I needed was hot water, and it was the perfect, just sweet, soothing, desserty taste that I so deeply crave after meals. And it makes me feel so calm, so restorative. It is my optimal nighttime tonic. And literally, I've gotten all my friends on it, and I'm pinching myself that they are my podcast sponsors, because even if they weren't, I would still be telling everyone about it. So head over to Organifi.com and use coupon code Sahara for 20% off. That is Organifi, Organifi.com. Use coupon code Sahara for 20% off your gold. Welcome, Amber, to the Highest Self podcast. It's so good to have you here.
Oh my goddess, I'm so happy to be here. This is so fun.
Yes. So the first question I would love to ask you is, what makes you your highest self?
What makes me my highest self? Well, since we've been on the topic of true, amazing sisterhood, I would say surrounding myself with women who I feel safe around, who I feel loved around, who I feel seen. And I think just growing up, not having that support from my mother, first and foremost, I love being surrounded by women who I can cheer them on and they can cheer me on. So I would say sisterhood. True, divine, safe, complementary, loving sisterhood. And making sure that I am taking time for me, making sure that I am putting my connection to spirit as the top priority and really filling my cup up. Because if my cup is not full, then I cannot really serve, which is so interesting. We're doing this today because many of you can probably tell I have a little rasp in my voice, and I feel like I've been giving a lot to sisterhood and to the world. And so my body is definitely saying, it's time, girl. You get some bubble bath time and you get to chill and go within and connect to source. So highest self would be when I'm fully connected with source, sisterhood, nature. Yeah, letting Mama Gaia hold you and breathe in the trees and the breeze and the earth and yeah.
All of it. Oh, so good. And it's so true that the more that you fill yourself up and you give yourself that bath or that herbal elixir, we just took like oil of oregano shots and, all of these things allow you to show up as a sister. And I think another thing that you are really good at is seeing people exactly as they are and complimenting them for their strengths and also calling them out on ways that they could further step up into integrity.
Yes.
And that's why you are the life purpose cheerleader.
Yeah.
So a topic that you speak a lot about that I think many High Self podcast listeners can relate is how to turn your crazy into your calling. And a lot of people listening are at that part of their spiritual journey where they're awakening to all these things. They could feel that they're different than everyone around them, but they haven't totally embodied that spirituality in their daily life. And many of them feel like am I going crazy? Am I insane? Am I making this shit up? So can you speak a little bit about what a spiritual awakening looks like?
Thank you so much for asking this. And it's true. I was the black sheep of the family, the woo-woo one, the one too out there, the too much one, never feeling like I fit in, like an alien in my home. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate to this. And so I always felt like I was crazy. I was told my dreams are crazy. I need to get my head out of the clouds. And I'm sure there's some of you that can relate to this. And it can feel really isolating. And so that was something I got used to, people not seeing me and not getting it, right? That's why I became a cheerleader. So I could pretend, put on the mask that everything was okay at home. I could just smile and I could show up for the team and show up for other people, and kind of cheerleading almost saved my life in that way. And so, as I was getting older, I started, down my path and looking for my worth in television and being a TV host. And when that wasn't filling myself up, I looked around in my community of, all these fame seekers in Hollywood. And I was just like, I felt so alone. And I wanted to have more like-minded friends because I wanted to serve the planet. And I did not know what that looked like. And I did think I was going crazy. I was crazy because I was looking around my community and not finding joy in the things I felt joy in anymore. Looking around my job and not getting turned on by what I was up to in the world. Not enjoying the things I used to. And so that makes you start to feel a little crazy. And when you start to grow through your spiritual awakening, oftentimes it's a combined effect of looking around, not jamming on your friends, your job, your family, maybe even your partner, and you feel even more stuck and more alone. And you talk about maybe wanting more, or maybe you're starting to hear things. Maybe you're starting to see things. Maybe you're starting to feel different things in your body. And so for me, I had my dark night of the soul where I lost my dad, and I found out that my boyfriend at the time was a sex addict. And I had just come off a reality show where I was bullied on and had the biggest offer in my life, but I didn't want to talk smack about celebrities anymore. And this dream that I'd wanted my whole life, to have my own show as a TV host, was coming to fruition right in front of me. And I didn't want it. And I felt crazy. And so my dad was dead, my relationship was dead, my dream was dead. And I felt more crazy than ever before, because who am I now without my dream? And so either you find yourself in that position where it's the dark night of the soul, where you feel like everything in your life is falling apart and everything you wanted, you don't anymore. Or you find what you thought you wanted not being what you desire, and you feel like you're going crazy. And that gets you to a space where you get to choose. And you get to choose if you're willing to leave good to find great, and if you're willing to listen to the whispers of your soul versus the yells of your ego. And so when I developed Turn Your Crazy, air quotes, you are crazy, into your purpose, was because I wanted to show people the tangible tools and steps to navigate you from those crazy ideas into making them your reality. Steve Jobs quote, it's the crazy people who think they can change the world actually do. And then the definition of crazy, which is doing the same thing, expecting a different result, which I think is a perfect example of us living in the matrix. We're gotta go to school, gotta go to college, gotta get married, get the white picket fence. And then one day we wake up and we look around and everything we should like and should be happy about, but we're just not feeling it anymore. And we make ourselves bad or wrong for that. And so whoever is listening right now is finding themselves looking at their marriage and going, this isn't it. Or the town they live in, and this isn't it. Maybe they have a great, decent job and a great family, a great partner, but it's not lighting their soul on fire. You're not alone, and you're not crazy. Sister, you're just awakening. You're waking up, and you're really ascending. So you're either in your process of your spiritual awakening, which is really getting into the remembrance of who you are and why you came and what really matters, or you've realized that, and now you're having to shed everything that you were taught. You were supposed to unlearn everything, so then you can be who you really truly are here to be. Yeah, I can go down that path all day, but I just wanted to let you know you're not alone and you're not crazy. You're just awakening.
So beautifully said. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think a lot of people can relate right now to being at the dark night of the soul. And I think when you're at that point, that is actually when things start to clear up.
Yes.
Because you're able to see, wow, all of these things that were in my life that I thought were forever going to be my normal actually are choices that I'm no longer choosing.
Yes.
And from that, it's, you know, the goddess Kali who's creating that space, who's burning down that house. And, you know, when your house is burning down, you're like, oh shit, all my belongings, all my things, like I lived there my whole life.
Right.
And then when it burns down, you're like, oh, well, now I have all the space and what do I want to create?
Yeah. And that can be the most scariest. It's like, well, at least I know I have a job that pays the bills, and at least I know I have a marriage, even though it's mediocre. At least I know I'm comfortable with the mediocrity. But who am I with none of those things? Who do I get to be? You know, and it's oftentimes we're all going to have that moment, right? We're on our deathbed or we're taking our final breaths. We're not going to be saying to ourselves, man, I wish I would have listened to my parents. Man, I wish I would have went to that job more that gave me a good pension. Well, I wish I would have did more of what my spouse wanted me to do. No. And I think that's why so many people have such a hard time crossing over, is because they're living in so much regret. I should have this, I should have that, I wish I would have. And, you know, my wish and my mission is to remind people who they are and why they're here, and to activate their divine soul assignment. And that is you having a new relationship with the word crazy, and letting crazy be your new normal is what I tell my light workers in my community. You know, it's like we get to wear crazy, like, you know, as our badge of honor. You know, crazy gets to be your new normal, because normal is not fun, and normal keeps you comfortable. And it's that comfort that keeps you living this really missing the point of life. And I think there's just so many people who are so scared to really go for what they want that they settle for what they don't. You know, and that's not why we came. We came here. We're all here for our divine soul assignment. You know, we each have our own unique fingerprint. We've each signed our paper when we push people out of the way to get in line to reincarnate, I believe, into this planet, this lifetime. You know, we had our walking papers, we had our orders, and we chose that. And then we come through our mother's womb and we forget. And the whole point of our life is to really like unlearn all the masks that we put on and own why we're here. And once we do, like as I was thinking about today, like I don't really have that many bad days anymore, because once you're living on purpose, spirit brings all these opportunities and these sisters and the abundance. And, you know, it sounds crazy, guys, but it's true. You know, life really starts to work once you own your soul assignment, because spirit and your angels and your guides and everyone's working for you to open these paths and these opportunities for you. And life gets really awesome once you just say yes, and doors fly open that weren't there before. And that's what I get really excited about, is reminding people of like, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to stay in situations that don't mirror your worth, or friendships that don't make you feel good. Like, that's the part of getting to be human this lifetime. You get to make it count, and you get to live your best damn life. And there's going to be ups and downs, but once you're living your soul assignment, things get really great.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And what I find so beautiful is that almost every spiritual background from, you know, I talk about the Vedas and Dharma, and it's this exact same thing. And, you know, Shaman Durek talks about like the big black, I think that's how he calls it. And it's the same thing of the mass forgetting. And it's amazing how, whether you come from New Age, shamanism, Ayurvedic, whatever it is, we have these same core concepts of you came to this earth with a purpose, with essentially a soul contract of what you were going to create on this planet. And then you forget, and your journey of remembering is what prepares you for the embodiment of it and for the doing of it. And also that you don't want to skip that part. I think so many of us are like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Like, you know, you could take all the Myers-Briggs tests, Enneagram, whatever, and those are all helpful in different ways, but your purpose is only going to come through the trials and errors. Yes. You would not have gotten to your purpose had you not worked as a TV host and saw that wasn't for you, as a cheerleader and saw that's not for you. But each of those experiences had codes. Absolutely. And they prepared you for activating in the way that only you can activate. So we don't want to skip over our schooling,
our spiritual curriculum.
Yes. Yeah. Like imagine if we were, you know, supposed to, like I always say, if we gave you a spot to perform at the halftime show of the Super Bowl, but you never practiced, like it wouldn't be a good performance. You have to do the Beyonce style, like practice day in and day out. And that's what makes your life performance be worth it.
Oh my goddess. Yes, yes, yes. And I'm in the space now where so many people are looking for their purpose. And here's the deal, like coaching hundreds of men and women from around the world on turning their crazy into their purpose. There are steps that need to happen in order for you to be the container for the love, container for the abundance, to hold the space to be able to actually facilitate other people. And so many people want to skip doing their inner work, skip doing the inner child work, skip doing the forgiveness work, skip facing off with all their triggers and getting curious as to why they do the things they do. They just want to go straight to the purpose and making the money. And at the end, the end, I've arrived. And that's what I'm seeing so much, is that your purpose will never be fulfilling if you haven't done the inner work, and you're really never going to get to your actual purpose until you're literally ready to allow those calling moments to happen, for all the skin to shed, to be reborn again. And so it really, you won't hear the divine whispers of the soul or spirit or your higher power if you have a lot of noise. And that's why, I have walked people through the different steps, which can, from meditation, right? You've got to open your channel. You've got to be able to hear, and your antenna, we all have, I believe, like an antenna, like a cosmic Google, if you will, that connects us to the divine. But people are so busy and so consumed and so in such a state of avoidance that they can't hear, and they don't slow down long enough to listen. And Dr. Wayne Dyer shares it best, if prayer is you talking to God, meditation is God talking to you. And there's so many different forms of meditation. We've talked about this, but it's really the need to slow down long enough so your guides and your angels and the divine can get through. And I think that's a missing piece for this old patriarchy, slavery mentality of like, we got to do. We got to do the gym and do momming and do, lifing, and just, we're non-stopping in this mindset that it is a distraction from us being able to slow down long enough to actually get all the answers that we're waiting for. And so you have to make the space to hear. You have to know your soul assignment. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you're never going to figure out your soul assignment until you slow down. You're never going to get clarity on your purpose. It's too loud. And you're not present. And you're running around trying to see what you can get from everyone instead of what you can give. And, there's many different steps, but self-love and self-acceptance and self-worth is the key to living your purpose. Because if not, when we see them in our industry, there are so many people where it's never going to be enough money. They're just doing more and more and more and more and more, and they're still not satisfied. And it's because they haven't stopped to do the work. You can be a great marketer and a great business person, but it doesn't mean you're even living your soul assignment. That could be an actual distraction from what you're actually really here to do and create. That's your safety zone, making millions of dollars a year, for example, But why do you have that anxiety? Why are you stressed out all the time, right? What are you running from? That gets me lit up, So I could talk about this all day long. It just fires me up.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because I'm sure when you start to talk about turn your crazy into your purpose, you start to speak about it. I bet a lot of people immediate thought was, well, how am I going to make money off doing that? And even for myself, that was a lot of the questions that I was asking during my awakening of like, how can I ever make money off of like being me, like being spiritual? But it kind of just shows the way our society is, that instantly we want to figure out monetizing it. And I understand it. We do live in a currency-based society that we need to monetize things. And I don't think it needs to be like you instantly quit your job and try to become a spiritual teacher because you are having a spiritual awakening. I think the steps that you talked about, like try different lineages. Like maybe you try sound baths and breath work and kundalini and all of these different things, and you see what works for you. Become a student, practice it. Maybe just start teaching your friends and then start getting some free clients. And like, I think we try to jump so much and make it that thing that pays our bills. And it takes away from, one, us being a student of it, and two, enjoying it. I don't think everything that we enjoy is meant to be our job. Like, for example, I loved yoga, started when I was 12 years old. So when I was in Bali, I always saw these yoga teacher trainings. I'm like, oh my God, I should do a yoga teacher training, because it was just what made sense. I love yoga and a lot of people are doing teacher trainings, so I should do one. Well, I didn't have the money for it. And I think in a way, spirit manifested me to not do it, because the truth is I don't like teaching yoga. Right. I don't like sequencing people. I don't like touching sweaty people. Like it is just, it's not my dharma. But I was just trying to lean towards, well, I'm seeing people are making money doing that. Therefore I should just go do that too. Instead of like really asking myself, what do I really want to teach? Which was Ayurveda, but I didn't have an example of anyone teaching that.
Right. And that was your breadcrumb, right? Like yoga was you following the breadcrumbs. What is bringing me joy? And I often find this with young people, like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And it's like, follow what brings you joy. And remember, like, that's probably not going to be your thing. You're probably, or your end all game. You're going to change 8 to 10 times probably before you die on what you're going to do, because your cells are always evolving and changing.
Yes,
So your interests and your friendships and all the things are always going to evolve and change. So be graceful with yourself. But what I often find is that people are so trying to get the thing that it is all of, like you said, the trials and tribulations, everything that's happened to me, and I'm air quoting to me, for me, has created the woman I am today. And I think a big part of this soul assignment is, one, unlearning everything you learned, i.e. healing yourself and learning to love all parts of you, including your shadow, and then paying it forward to that person who is going to relate to you. And I'm not saying you even need to make a job about it. Maybe it's a post, maybe it's a video, right? Maybe it's a little book you write. Maybe it's an ebook you write. Maybe it's just talking to someone that you run into on the street or on the bus. They are experiencing something similar that you experience. And because you overcame that, that is your purpose. You were lighting that soul up and you were supporting them on their human walk home. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be like, well, I have to be, like Sahara, or I have to be like Amber. It's like, maybe that is not your thing. Maybe you're going to light up your family or your neighbors. And that's right. That's Sahara's thing. And this is my thing. Yeah. We each have our own unique fingerprint. We have a lot of similar things that we teach and believe, but her soul assignment is different than my soul assignment. But everything that both of us have gone through has been our spiritual curriculum. And the second part of being a light worker is to pay that forward onto others. And so nothing that's happened in your life is in vain. It has made you the human you are today. Your past doesn't define you, but it definitely has made you who you are, and it's going to support you on who you become. And so that's why people get excited when you have, finding out my boyfriend was a sex addict and walking off the set of E! News and like all these things. I almost went home and killed myself that night. Like, in spirit had a different plan, but I can sit here and speak about that with you today. And that was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And that feels like 100 years ago. Because I'm a completely different person, but I don't regret, or I would never take back going to the dollar store for food, or, being on food stamps when I was little, or all the things that I grew up and went through in my life. That's how my community and my audience and my students and everyone can relate to me. Growing up with a mother who's bipolar and mentally ill, and, that is me. I'm not a victim to that. I am grateful for those experiences, because I wouldn't be the resourceful woman I am today, that I am today. And so I want you, whoever's listening, to realize, just because it feels like everything's falling apart right now, it's not. You're rebuilding, and your foundation is crumbling. So then the real you can emerge, like the phoenix can come and rise. And then that person that you are is really who you truly always have been, before you learned things from parents that were just doing the best they can with the tools they had.
Yes.
And now you just get to go, oh, you know what? That doesn't serve me anymore. And that belief doesn't work for me. And just because grandma did this and mom did that and my whole family thinks I should, that's a big one. And I want to just sit with that right now, because I know what it feels like to have a family that doesn't get it. I know what it feels like to have partners that don't get it. Nothing or makes sense to them. And I want you guys to know, and I'm sure Sahara can attest to this, nothing about my soul assignment makes sense. Anytime spirit has told me to do something and I have followed it, it has worked out. And it usually is a crazy idea. My entire first program was called Turn Your Crazy into Purpose, which I literally came up with on the fly. And I had no marketing dollars. And I launched this program literally just from Periscope. Spirit told me in a Kundalini yoga class that I was supposed to go on Periscope. I heard from 2 other people that day. Mind you, Periscope was a live video platform before Facebook Live was around and way before Instagram Live was around. And I did this video that finally went viral. My business blew up. And the next thing I know, I had all these fans and all these people wanting to work with me. I went from 700 to 10,000 followers overnight. And I was like, whoa. And I was eating literally out of a can at the time. I'd blown through all my savings and I had gotten a gnarly car accident. There's just, everything was happening. And I followed the whisper. And every other time that I've done that, it's been whoa, but I had to get myself to a space where I was available to listen. And I know what it feels like, oh, maybe I see people doing that. I should do that. And I should do that. And you can get so caught up with the I shoulds and look at what everyone else is doing that you're missing your own divine soul assignment, which is right there. And so your family's not going to get it. And most of the time, the craziest ideas are yours for you, and they're actually not crazy for you. There's exactly what you get to do. And I've seen it. I've seen it with students who live in middle America and want to be yoga instructors, and their parents are like, you need to go to school, and, making them get a good job. And they end up quitting, their school and going after their yoga dream and now teaching yoga to little kids. And, your path is your path. And we live in a time-space reality where our parents didn't have the same resources as we did. Same with our grandparents. There was no podcast. There was no cell phones. They had to go to school and that's what they had to do. And there's so many different ways to make money now. But what I truly believe is that you will never, ever be broke if you're living your purpose. And so when you ask, well, how can I make money on that? How can you not? It's about finding mentors. It's about joining communities. It's about surrounding yourself with other people that have what you desire, not maybe the same specific thing, but that you have a physical evidence that it's possible. Mm-hmm. I remember Sahara sharing that she didn't have any evidence that was possible. We're both like the first, entrepreneurs in our families, really. And the female side of things, right? And I didn't have example. I didn't know that I could be traveling the world and working from my phone and working for myself. Like, I never thought I was worthy or it was possible to be a business owner. And I'm figuring it out as I go. Like, we talk about all the time. We're like, we don't know how to do bookkeeping, We're figuring it out as we go. And we're going to continue to. Mm-hmm. But we're just going to follow what lights our soul up. Mm-hmm. And everybody is worthy of getting up every day with their soul on fire.
Yes.
And if it's not lighting your soul on fire, you got to quit doing it. Like, immediately. And because if not, all that vibrational frequency, that low vibration that you're radiating at is not going to draw in what you want. It's going to draw in more of what you don't. And so, and that can be scary, and especially like people are like, well, how am I going to pay my bills? Well, you're going to find a job that makes you feel a little bit better. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying like, oh, the dream job, because maybe you will get that one straight away. But if it's not making you feel good and you're selling your soul every day, you're in that definition of crazy and that insanity loop. You're driving the freaking grabbing the ticket, getting on the train to Nowhereville every day, and you're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to go, wow, okay, I'm riding the crazy train and I get to get off of it, which means I just get to make a different choice, right? Instead of being like, wow, am I going to support, myself and getting all freaked out? What is one baby step that's going to be, and maybe it's quitting your corporate job that kills you and going and working at Starbucks for 6 months and being a manager. Who cares? You go, you make the coffee, you meet people, you feel good every day. You go home and you work on your business at night. Mm-hmm. You go home and you take a course. Baby steps, right? But start for doing things that feel good. Try to go to a job at a yoga studio if yoga lights you up, or go try to get a job working for your, someone you look up to, or in an area or field that is curiosity. Just follow the breadcrumbs of curiosity. Mm-hmm. Because I've had 1,000 jobs in my day. I've done everything from retail to throwing EDM festivals to being a freaking nanny, an executive assistant, selling clothes. I've done it all. But every single one of those tools added to my toolbox that has made me who I am. The hustler is still there, right? The person that can figure it out is still there. And you get to just trust that everything is just creating more of who you are and guiding you home. So follow the light. I mean, you're listening to Sahara's podcast, which means you're vibrating at the frequency enough. Like this is meant for you. If you're listening to this podcast right now, Spirit led you here, and you get to be grateful for that. You're in this community. This is a mirror of who you are and what you want and where you're going. So you get to be excited about that and lean in more into that feeling and that knowing.
So beautifully said. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, I have seen it myself and amongst so many people that you just go towards what is that next best feeling, as Abraham Hicks says. And, it doesn't have to necessarily be like you change every single thing of your life, but maybe it's just that one thing that you change that leads to the next and leads to the next. It's just always following your excitement. Looking back on my life, like the things that I was excited about right before led me to the next thing and the next thing. Like, for example, this summer being like, I want to sign up for DJ school, you know?
Right.
And that just
now look
lead
at you,
me
you're
to
going to DJ at Sarah's event this weekend, dude.
Right. And, you know, and again, like most of us are like, well, how am I going to make money doing that? And I'm not making money doing it, but it's just like fun, but I'm just in the enjoyment of it and it's exciting for me. So it's guiding me to that next step. And most of us, we're not willing to have fun. We're not willing to be playful and just learn and be students and be in the creation process. We want to instantly have this, and it's our school system that put that into our head
100%.
of like, and even in spirituality, it's like, I need to like study this and get it in my mind and then like make money doing it. And it's like, no, like I'm always still learning. Like we just did the prayer for Australia. I stayed on like for 2 hours, that whole call, just like taking everyone else's medicine in, and you never get to a point that you just like know it all, and you have to allow yourself to always be a student. And
always be a student. We're always students. We never have it figured out.
Never, ever, ever. That's why I'm taking a bookkeeping course.
That's right, girl. I'm going to be hiring you to do my books. Just kidding.
So what do you recommend for someone right now who, you know, they're interested in whatever their type of spirituality is? They're waking up, they want these deeper connections, but they don't have anyone around them to talk to. They feel completely isolated. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I love that. And, well, you're here. You got Sahara, you got me. You got a whole long list of individuals that you can just binge listen to here. That's the great thing about living in 2020 is that you have access to basically instant virtual friends there are communities, right? There's World School Goddess, there's Lightworker Academy. There are an influx of beautiful communities around the world with people who can talk your language, right? And especially when you start to wake up. And so I'll just speak into Ascension a little bit if that's okay. But there's basically our bodies are recalibrating to a new frequency. And we are, most of us, operating in the third dimensional frequency, which is all logic and reason. And in order to get to the fifth dimensional frequency, which is the heart-based frequency, the heart doesn't care about logic and reason. The heart only cares about how does it make me feel? How am I feeling, right? Heart-to-heart connection. In order to get from the third frequency or third dimensional frequency into the fifth dimensional frequency, we've got to get to the fourth dimensional frequency, which is our throat, which is why so many of us, and you look at it with the Me Too movement and what's going on in the world, we have to learn to speak our voice and speak our truth. Call out the bullshit, right? Not sign up for the gossip, as my mentor, Brianna Lynn says. Don't sign up for the gossip or subscribe to the gossip, but don't take any shit either, right? And being able to activate your truth. And so Spirit's going to put things in our place that's going to force us to own our voice. Maybe it in our relationship, our friendships, our work, the environment. When we're seeing injustice in the world, we're going to speak up into that, right? And it's a necessary part of our soul's evolution. And so as we ascend, as our earth is spinning closer to the sun and to different planets, and as our dormant DNA as a collective is waking up, and people are waking up every day, and they're looking around their life and going, I don't know what I want, but I don't want this. And they're feeling like they're aliens. That means you're waking up, you're remembering. It's this great remembering we're living in. It's such an exciting time. And things are going to start to happen to your physical body, right? And fatigue. You know, there's a wave of ascension where you'll be, going to sleep and having plenty of sleep, and you'll wake up exhausted, right? And you'll be going through life and you're just white for no reason. Diet's the same. You're not coming down with something. You've got to sleep. You're not going crazy. You're ascending. Some people are having ringing in their ears. That was big for me about 2.5, 3 years ago, the ringing in the ears. My body is acclimating to this different frequency. And so I'm starting to hear different dimensions. And so when you hear the ring in your ears, I always just say, angels, please, turn the volume down. And you'll start to maybe get massive migraines. I had really bad migraines like 1.5 years ago, real bad. Some people will get a rash. Some people will get heart palpitations. And the way you can think about it is when the astronauts go up into space, their body has to acclimate. Or if any of you guys have gone to like higher elevations, or if you're on a plane and your ear starts to pop, our little physical bodies, we're just these little souls with this meat suit on us, and we get into these different frequencies, it's going to affect our bodies differently. And so you're not going crazy. Many people may go to the doctors countless times, and I've had clients and students do that, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There isn't anything wrong with you. Don't let them put you on medication. You're ascending. And so your body may be really, really hungry, and then you can go days and not really be hungry at all. And I had waves of insomnia. Adam Rowan and I a few years ago were waking up between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning for like 3 weeks straight. We're like, what is happening to us? And your body's going to change because the environment is changing and the planet is changing. And so we are actually taking more light in our physical body. And that's what's happening. And so it's activating dormant DNAs, hobbies, spiritual gifts. Some people might start to hear things, like I think it was almost 2 years ago now. I woke up in the middle of the night and there were angelic trumpets playing in my house. And I was like, I flew out of bed and I was terrified. And I turned the lights on. I'm like, what is happening? Right? And I'm not going crazy. I'm waking up. And so whether or not you're experiencing some of these symptoms, none of these symptoms, your interests are changing, your taste buds are changing. Maybe you've eaten meat your whole entire life and now all of a sudden the meat's rotten in your fridge. That happened to me. I was eating dairy and then back in the day, my body put me on soy before we knew it was bad, and just because you've eaten chicken every day your whole life doesn't mean you have to eat it now. Power of choice, right? You're going to need more water probably and more rest. And so be gentle with yourself. I never take naps, right? Well, and then you're like, I need a nap. Honor that. Honor that because your little body is upgrading. And just like you get the new updates from Apple and we got to turn our phones off and we got to recalibrate, we're also recalibrating. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about, Spirit was telling me to share a little bit about the Ascension symptoms with someone out there that's listening to this and going, whoa, some people can start to see light so they can start to hear angels or guides, and get yourself around a community that talks your language. So you're not alone. And just because you might live in your tiny little town or your whole family is Catholic AF or whatever, trust in the knowing that you're not crazy and your soul family is out there and they're growing through the same thing. And if you're listening to this, it's because your soul now needs to hear it or your soul very soon needs to hear it. If you're a part of Sahara's community, you're clearly on your spiritual awakening path or you're going through your ascension process or you're about to be. And I believe you guys, light workers, go first. Mm-hmm. And this is the first wave of ascension and you're the leader. And it may not be that you're going to be leading people on a global stage or in a book or on a podcast, but you could definitely be helping Sally from high school or your friends or your neighbors who are going to be feeling like they're going nuts and losing their minds. And you're going to be like, I went through this. I got you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure many people listening are like, oh my God, that's me, that's me, that's me. And it's so funny. I didn't experience really any of those symptoms. For me, I felt like it was a lot more gradual. It kind of turned into me isolating myself. Yes. Everyone that I was around, suddenly I didn't want to be around them. I wanted to be myself. I just wanted to learn. I wanted to be online reading these weird forums and this. And
totally.
It was less because my intuitive abilities are more claircognizant, which is just this, suddenly I knew information. For example, my Ayurveda book, I channeled it all.
Totally.
I would just be looking out the window and the dashas and talking and it was coming through. Whereas I feel like you have a lot of clairaudience, the sound. That's why you work with the drums and the bowls. So of course the angels are playing trumpets and the sounds are coming up. Whereas
that was so scary.
A lot of people will see, spirits in their house or, sacred geometry everywhere. And that's more of the sight. And there's all these different clairs, clairsentient, clairaudient, clairvoyant, which is the sight. Clairsentient is feeling. So a lot of empaths will just suddenly feel what's going on. And all of these things, by the way, when you get them, you have to learn how to cope with a normal life because
Absolutely.
You don't want to be confused if you're talking to a human or a ghost. You don't want to be picking up on everyone's good luck going to New York City when you're not sure whose emotions you're feeling.
Shrink that aura, girl.
So they are gifts that we then have to learn how to fine tune and cope with normal society. And I do think that, and that's why such a big part of being a light worker is to share it with other people. It's not to just have those gifts and then move up to the Himalayas and not talk to anyone. I think there are certain people that is their dharma. They're meant to just hold a frequency and that's it. But I think a lot of us, what the call really right now is for people with those gifts to be entrenched in society so we can change our government, education system, school system, financial system, everything from within.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, you're not going crazy, but now it's time to find the tools to navigate, right? We go move into a different environment. We got to wear different clothes, right? You move up to certain elevations, you go hike Machu Picchu, like there's training required so you can sustain and recalibrate. So don't freak out, just get tools. We've got so many resources. You know, I'm sure there's tons of people on your podcast alone that can support. And, you know, Sahara's community, my community, like there are people who are growing through exactly what you are, and it's your responsibility to share. And again, I'm not saying go live on a social media, or I'm saying you'll know when the time is, but you get to do your own inner work so you can hold that frequency, not burn yourself out, and be able to actually still function in society. And it's beautiful, guys. Like if you're feeling scared and all this, like don't feel scared, but that's okay. Like be okay with what you're feeling, but trust in the knowing that your soul's ready for this expansion, or you wouldn't be experiencing this.
Yes, exactly. It is your time.
Your time. And your superpowers
and the more you
are
resist
unlocking.
it, that's how it actually becomes difficult. When you resist it, when you're like, oh yes, stepping into it, it's like you just put on your cape.
That's right. We are getting our superhero dormant DNA and
X-ray
superpowers.
vision.
Exactly. Our X-Men are coming out because for centuries, you guys, look, and here's the deal. You've been doing this for centuries. All right. You've been doing this for lifetimes. And now it's never been safer to be a light worker. You're not going to get burned. You're not going to get, you know, buried alive, God willing. But if we will, hey, at least we'd be going down in a blaze of glory. But there's never been more of a time for you, safer time for you to let your light shine. And people are around you want to talk about this stuff, you know, and maybe it's not in your current zip code, but you have access to your soul family by getting online and getting out into the podcast world. Like there's so many people here you can connect with.
100%. And if you live in an area where you're like, I live in the South, no one talks about this stuff. It's like, great. You were just invited by source to be that person to start the conversation. Yes. Because there are people in their bedrooms by themselves looking this stuff up, and they
100%.
Probably are just afraid of coming out of the spiritual closet too. So you get to be that first person to start the conversation. And, you know, maybe you put up a meetup, or you create a yoga studio, or whatever it is. Maybe you're just in the doctor's office talking to your patients. Like, do you meditate, by the way? Like, take this crystal, or whatever it is. And you will be surprised how you are met with so much positive feedback.
Oh my God, it's like attracts like, right? So you guys get to know that if you're vibrating at that frequency, you're going to be likened to itself as John, as Abraham Hicks shares, right? Those individuals who are also experiencing that are going to come to you. And when you give yourself permission to shine, you give others permission to shine as well. And it's not until you turn your light all the way on that your real tribe can find you. So if you're just sitting in your house playing with your crystals, or, you know, journaling and playing with your cards, Sahara's cards, all by yourself, no one's going to know that you're into that stuff. But you snap a picture, post it on your Instagram, you're going to get someone writing to you, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful deck. I have one too. And you're going to be like, whoa, like just trust in the knowing that the world is waking up.
Especially now.
Oh, goddess.
You know, even the people like in college who thought I was so weird for all this stuff today, they're like, I got your book and this. And I'm like, you know, even my own parents were like, you will never make it. You're going to like die. And like, you know, because all of their fears of like not ever seeing anyone take this path today, they're like, it was because of us. We inspired her.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
like,
okay, sure.
You're like, do you remember the time where
you did not want me to do any of this? So, you know, at first people are going to meet you with resistance potentially because of their own fears and their own limitations and scarcity mindset. And then when you continue to be true to yourself, you actually expand their view of what is possible for them.
Oh my gosh, you give them permission. And this is like, you're a lighthouse. Like if you're listening to this podcast, you are definitely a lighthouse. And a lighthouse, if you think about a lighthouse standing on the edge or whatever, posted up on the edge of, you know, an ocean, a lighthouse isn't picking and choosing who the lighthouse shines its light on. Well, that's a big intimidating boat. I'm not going to shine my light over there. I'm only going to shine on this little guy. No, a lighthouse just stands there and shines so that everybody can find their way into the harbor and find their way home. And that's your responsibility, to turn your light all the way on so those that need your services, your medicine, your wisdom, your love, your encouragement can find you. And you don't get to keep dimming your light worker for other people to feel comfortable, because it's doing a disservice to that little ship in the harbor that freaking needs you.
And I think a lot of us, when you shine your light brightly, you are going to be met by people who have not seen their light yet, and they're extremely triggered.
Of
like
course.
I actually recently, and it was beautiful, you know, just example of this, but this girl on social media wrote to me, she's like, I came across your page like a couple months ago and you triggered me because your light was shining so brightly.
Wow.
And now I've done a lot of work since, and now you're really inspirational for me. And I was like, thank you so much for sharing that. And, how many of us, we see someone, maybe it's on social media or in our lives, that they've turned on something that we know we have in us, but we haven't fully met yet. So they become the trigger instead of us realizing that whatever I'm admiring in them, I have in myself too. When you open up a box and are in love? That is what happened when I opened up the kits from Anima Mundi Herbals. Their Sacred Heart Love Kit has my favorites, including Blue Lotus Tea, which enhances intuition, Mucuna, which enhances dopamine, Cacao, which opens the heart, ethically sourced Palo Santo Mist, and their Euphoria Elixir. It is divinity in a box and pairs perfectly with their coconut milk powder. Anima Mundi is literally my love language, and I know you are going to be obsessed with her stuff, which you can learn more about on episode 240 with the founder. She's gifted us a generous 20% off, which you can get at animamundiherbals.com with coupon code Sahara. That's animamundiherbals.com, ANIMAMUNDI herbals.com with coupon code Sahara. This episode is brought to you by Four Sigmatic. Four Sigmatic is an incredible mushroom elixir company. I proudly drink their elixirs every single day. My favorite is their chai mix. It is insanely delicious. I quit chocolate cold turkey, and what helped me was drinking this chai mix every day. And best of all, they use stevia to sweeten it, and there's no sugars like the chai lattes you'll find at Starbucks or wherever else. And the mushrooms are really good for balancing your hormones, helping heal adrenal fatigue, healing your body on an adaptogenic level. So adaptogens really kind of relate to what your body needs. So if you are high stress, it will bring you down. If you need more energy, it will bring you up. And that's what's so amazing about adaptogens. They adapt to your body, and mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, have a lot of adaptogenic properties. So you can head over to their website, foursigmatic.com, foursigmatic.com/Sahara. I have a little shop up there with my favorite Four Sigmatic products. So you can try it out, and you can also get 15% off any Four Sigmatic product using the code Sahara.
Absolutely. I remember, and I'm sure I'm going to meet her one day, Marie Forleo. Mm-hmm. So when I was a TV host, I would, I got to start a YouTube channel. This is like 15 years ago, right? And if I would have done it then. Anyway, and I remember being so triggered by Marie. I'm like, I'm a dancer. I'm funny. I'm da-da-da-da. Like, I should be doing this, and it's the same thing. Like, I was jealous because I hadn't stepped in yet, and Marie had put herself out there, and she was stepping in, and Marie was just a billboard reminding me of what was possible for myself. I just was looking at it like that there was a scarcity of like that we could both be shining.
Yes.
Right. And I was very much in my scarcity mindset at that point, but I know there's enough success for everyone. And Marie was just an example of my future self, And so that's just the truth, guys. Like, if you see something in someone else, you really truly know that that's possible for you too. And you just get to say, thank you, Spirit. That for me or something greater, And when you start to see people with things that you admire, things that you want, just say, that's for me, that's for me, that's for me. And just continue to signal to the universe, like, I see it. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I want to share something. I had a bully in high school. Well, I had a couple boys in high school, and I was a cheerleader. So most people think, oh, you were popular. And yeah, but there was also really mean girls as well, right? And this one girl in particular was really mean to me from like the 7th grade when she was really popular. And then she got into high school and she started doing drugs, so she didn't become popular. And long story short, we had our ways. Well, when I first started sharing on social media, and I've done courses to help people activate their light and be authentic and vulnerable on live video. And that's really when their businesses start to blow up, because I started sharing everything. And not from a place of a marketing strategy, but from just a place of like, I'm sick of wearing this fake mask. Like, I was on a TV host. I had to like talk a certain way and say the news like this and, just not be myself. And I had this bully a couple of launches ago reach out to me. about like one of my retreats in Shasta. And I'm thinking like, she does not want to go to Shasta. Like we're going to be like, doing all the things, activating all the things in one of the biggest vortexes in the world. But she reached out to me. She was just like, I really admire what you're doing. And I literally almost fell out of my chair because this girl, I literally used to censor what I would say when I first started on Facebook because I didn't want this girl from high school to hear me. And then I got to a point where I was like, F this. And I deleted everybody that I didn't want to see my stuff. So I don't even know how she saw my stuff, maybe because I'm public or something. But regardless, I was done censoring myself for other people to feel comfortable because I was censoring what I say because I didn't want those girls from high school to hear me because I thought I was going to get judged. And I'm like, I am doing a disservice to all the people that really need my medicine, that need my zone of genius to help them through what they're growing through because I went through it. I need to care more about them than what Sally from high school thinks. Exactly. And so when she reached out to me and asked me to come to my retreat and was like, I'd love information on your retreat. Like, it's so cool. You're so inspiring. I was just like, she was like my arch enemy. I was just like, oh my God, like never in a million years would I hear that my bully from high school would think that I would be inspiring her. So I want you guys to know, like for those of you that are starting to get out into the world with your videos or your podcast or whatever you're doing in the world, people be watching. They might not be commenting, but they're watching. And you just get to trust in the knowing that if you're being the divine channel for love and light and inspiration, that oftentimes whatever you're being called to share has nothing to do with you and so much about the people that really need to hear it.
Oh, yes. That's such a beautiful story. And I think so many of us have that one person that we're thinking of that we are censoring ourselves for, whether it's our ex or that frenemy or a parent or whatever it is that we're not fully being ourselves because every time we're about to post, we're thinking about that one person. Mm-hmm. And it's like, imagine all of the people who you're holding back from the exact message that they need that could have prevented them from suicide, that could have changed their life, that could have healed them. And yourself, imagine the healing that it's doing for yourself to fully show up. And it's just so funny how the human mind can focus so much on this one person and like fixate on it and be so afraid and create all these stories. And then look, it was totally not based in truth. Like, look, you stood up, shared who you are. And not only did she not bully you, but she was so inspired that she wants to learn from you on a retreat. So you spent those entire 10 plus years
longer
worried about something that didn't exist, that was made up.
And we do that so much in our lives. The post that I shared a couple years ago that went viral a couple times, I had been getting some, whispers in my family about who the hell does Amber think she is? Oh, she's a life coach. Give me a break. Like I remember when she was dancing on tables with DJs and raving and traveling the world and doing, ecstasy and like all these things.
Right. Because they don't understand that people can change.
Hello. And I'm like, if you think you know who I am, you have no clue who I am, right? I've done so much work. And so I did this this video, and I just shared all my secrets, like full out. And I didn't want anything from anyone. I was just like, I cannot hide anymore. And I shared my stuff, and it went viral. There was more comments than I've ever had. And people were just like crying and like so inspired, like wishing they could. It gave them inspiration to stop hiding who they are about the choices they have made. And it was like euphoria. And so every time I push myself to that edge to own more parts of my shadow and more parts of myself that I don't want people to see, like I did a post the other day and it got more comments than, and it was like, wow, I'm going to speak this because I'm really heated up about it. And I shared about it. And it was so well received. And so many people were like, thank you. And it was around like plant medicine and stuff and like what I see happening in our community and people facilitating it that shouldn't. And I'm not a plant medicine facilitator, but I'm just sharing that this was something that was very alive for me on my heart. And I'm glad I shared it. And I'm sure it ruffled a few feathers, and that's okay. Because I bet you there's a lot of people that now will use discernment when they're going to decide what shamans or what coaches they're going to work with. And that was like spirit saying, you need to speak this. And so the more you trust that feeling of spirit and you follow the nudges and you follow the whispers, that becomes your new normal. And I think like us both, you're like, we're going to write a book about this. Let's go. And so it's no longer like, oh my God, what's Sally from my school to think? Oh my God, what my parents going to think? Because we're so used to just trusting the feeling and just being in service and showing up. So that just becomes our new normal. We no longer question or doubt. And if we do it anyway.
Right.
And that's what, you guys, it's practice. Sahara and I still get nervous. I mean, she was nervous to DJ on her freaking birthday. And I was like, girl, you doing it, and that's the thing about being surrounded by tribe and community. That's why we both have created these communities that we're like, look, we're here to put you in the environment. And a tree's only going to grow, or a plant's only going to grow as big as its pot. And that tree can want so bad to change and so bad to grow. But if that tree doesn't have the environment and the nutrients, the sun, the water, that tree can pray till the clouds come, or till the sun comes, or whatever I'm trying to say. But the tree's not going to grow, or the plant's not going to grow without the nutrients, and can only grow as big as its container. And so that's why we both cannot speak enough to you needing to get into communities of people that have what you want, or are going where you want them to go, that believe in you, that don't think your dreams are crazy, and that you have physical evidence. Because we didn't have that growing up, Sarah. We didn't have no membership communities or any coaches, we had to go about it like the wild, wild
I didn't
west
even know
way.
that it existed. I don't think it didn't exist. Yeah.
I mean, coaching didn't even become like a thing until probably like less than 10 years ago.
Right.
Tony Robbins was kind of like the forefront of that. And most people getting out of the therapy space into the more like emotional intelligence space. But you guys are lucky. Like, you literally have resources everywhere for pennies on the dollar.
Literally.
Really. So like, there's really no excuses to say, well, my parents, stop listening to your friend from high school that probably won't buy your program anyway, or come to your yoga class or whatever. Start swimming in the ponds of people who believe what you believe and feel the way you feel. And they're everywhere now more than ever.
And I think the biggest thing it all comes down to is scarcity.
Absolutely.
So many of us, we know these communities exist. We know these coaches, support, all of the things that would literally take us to the next level in all areas of our lives. We know that they exist, but we're in such scarcity mindset that we create such a strong story of why we can't do it. And it's interesting because I see it all the time, especially when you're offering these things, you see people's scarcity mindset. And we're going to be honest, often, this is something every coach says, the people with the biggest scarcity mindsets are at the lowest price point.
100%.
And the reason why is because when you're not willing to invest $20, $30 in yourself, that feels like such a big deal. That feels like, and it actually has nothing to do with income.
Absolutely
It
not.
has nothing to do with income, because there are people who are jobless who will invest in themselves and completely transform their lives like you did.
I didn't have a job, Sahara. I opened a 0% interest credit card with no job. Guys, no job. I put $5,000 on a credit card for my first coach, and here I am today. Like, there's no way. My boyfriend at the time called me crazy. Hence another reason why I called that program that. And I said, I can't afford to keep living like this.
Yes.
I don't know what else to do. If I could change on my own, if I could get out of the scarcity loop on my own, if I could have started my own thing on my own,
You would have done it by
I
then.
would have done it by now. And that is the definition of crazy. But for some reason, I bet you anything, those people who say they don't have $20, $30, I bet you they buy bullshit every day.
Yep.
I bet you they buy Starbucks. I bet you they have a bunch of trinkets around their house. I bet you they've got 1 million card decks, and they've got 1 million crystals, and they still go to Target and drop $100 on stuff. I guarantee you, if you really want to change, I tell people, sell everything you have. Sell your TV, sell your couch, sleep on the floor. Like,
Yeah, our own friend Ashley sold her car to work with her coach, Alyssa.
oh, no way.
Yeah.
Ashley Stahl?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yes.
That's
Because
right.
Alyssa was a therapist, and then she transitioned to be a coach, and she was like, to work with me now, it's like XYZ amount of money. And Ashley didn't have that on her pocket, but she knew that this was transforming her life. So she's like, I'll sell my car and do it. So we're sharing
How
this.
bad do you want to get out of that?
Exactly.
Is the
We're
question.
sharing this with you
And how
because
fast?
if you're feeling like you're at this point of a spiritual awakening and involvement and you don't know what to do, there's so much support waiting for you, but you have to get out of your own scarcity mindset, and no one can do that for you. There are coaches, who can teach you more on scarcity mindset, but you have to invest into it,
You have to invest more than you're willing to invest in order for you to break the scarcity program that's running through your DNA, your mother's DNA, your grandmother's DNA. And you guys, I grew up in severe scarcity, so I can speak into this. But this is imperative for you to understand. The first way you're going to break through scarcity is to do what I did, to spend more money than you probably have. And it makes no sense because now you're telling the universe, this is my new normal.
And not only doing that, but being accountable, like owning up. Like you could hire a coach and not do all of the things that they recommend.
Of course.
The reason why investing in a coach is often effective is because if you just spent $5,000 on something, you're probably going to do what she says, you know?
Right.
Whereas if you just watched her YouTube video for free, which is what most people try to do, like I'll just consume as much free content as possible and think that will rub off on me. Like these podcasts and stuff are great, but like if you love what we're saying now, imagine if you like worked with us. And again, I don't even do coaching, so I have nothing to sell you guys. I'm literally just sharing it based off of my own experience and how, had I known this earlier, I would have actually been so much more ahead of where I am right now. The first time I invested in myself was I was in Bali and I was like literally completely broke. I had just been living in India, like for $2 to $4 a night huts, like no income, nothing at all. Like literally like poverty to poverty, you know? And that's where I met Malaika, the shamanic dance teacher. And I went to some of her like just like public classes. I was like, this is so amazing. But like no part of me ever thought of a facilitator training or yoga teacher training. Like those were just things for like richer people than me. Like I don't have the money to do any of those things. But something about her style of teaching was so resonating with me that I found a way. I worked for her. I was like her assistant. I would go out, give out flyers. I would put them on walls and this and that.
You wanted it.
Yeah, just to get a discount and get some kind of income, even in Bali, so I could go. Had I not done that, oh my God.
You did the work,
like
babe.
The amount of strength that it gave me, not just in, you know, teaching shamanic dance, but all of the things around that. And it just showed me like, wow, this 1 week that I spent with an actual coach in a facilitated program was like 4 entire months of me just like doodling around and finding things to do, you know? And so now I'm always looking for like, what experiences have you done that have elevated you? Because I want to do that too.
Well, yeah, they paved the path. And like, you know, coaches don't hire coaches because they want coach, or facilitators don't hire a facilitator coach because they want to be a good coach. They want to be a great coach. And they see the value in getting mentored by someone who has what you want or has been where you want to go. And so many people are asking people for how to get there, that ask directions from people that have never been where they want to go.
Because most of us just ask whoever's around us. And it's like, do the people around you, are they living their Dharma? Not even what you want. Are they even living what they want?
Right.
You know, like someone who's living their Dharma, even if it's like they're like selling used cars and that's genuinely what they want to do, at least the advice they're going to give you is coming from someone who's living in their authentic code. Someone who's not living in their authentic code has no idea what you're talking about. And then you're asking, I would do it all the time. I would ask my mom for advice as if she knows
my partner,
about my Dharma.
Like, come on, at the time that like was not even happy with his own life. Why am I asking him if this is a good idea?
We intuitively know that we need support.
Right.
As humans, we know we need to talk to people and we want to talk things out. And just that process of talking to someone helps. But we're asking people who are giving us toxic answers.
Right. And so really discernment, you know, this is a big word in the space right now. Like, are you getting advice from someone who actually is eating, breathing, and walking where you want to go? Have you done your research with your mentors? Like, have you asked, who'd you study under? What courses have you taken? Who's been your coach? You know, like whether it's plant medicine or a life coach, you can't just think because they've got cool memes and they've got cool friends that like you just can't assume that they are going to get you the results. And so I wanted to speak real quick into the piece of the consuming free content, because this is a big one. People, I mean, I hear it all the time. And I actually said this to a woman in my community because she's been like one of those free consumers for years now. And I'm just like, dude, how much longer are you going to just keep consuming my free content? You're exactly where you were 3 years ago when you first met me. Your life has not changed. You're still working the shitty job. You're still unhappy. Like, at what point are you going to actually invest? Because Spirit's not going to give you anything more than you have right now because you're not changing. You're living vicariously like people used to do. They'll watch movies and just like go into this fantasy world and like forget about their problems for a few hours. It's the same thing with watching people online.
True.
And it's like watching a video on how to dance salsa, watching a video on how to play basketball, or actually getting in the damn game, falling down, tripping over your feet, having the coach tell you, no, drop your shoulder here, swing her here, push her here, lean back here, you know, step on your right, not your left. Like, you could watch a video on how to dance salsa, but you know you're not going to learn salsa until you have a salsa coach. Or so you get in the game and get a partner and get feedback. And so that's what people need to realize. Like, when you're sitting on the outskirts, You're sitting on the sidelines watching people online or consuming a lot of podcasts. That's great for inspiration and a little bit of direction, but it's not going to get you the results. You have to get in the work, submerge yourself in the work, be willing to have somebody give you feedback. Why do you think Olympic athletes have coaches? They have like 10. They don't just get a gold medal and go, I'm good, guys. I've arrived. Thanks a lot. No, they have a freaking food coach and a stretching coach and a freaking sprinting coach. And I mean, I have friends that play in professional athletes. They got like 17 coaches.
Right.
Because they don't have time to figure it out on their own. And when you invest in programs or memberships or coaches or retreats, you're getting mentorship so you can avoid the mistakes that those people made. They're going to save you time, which is going to save you money because time is our most valuable commodity. I wish I had a coach when I was first starting my business that was guiding me. And I wish I had a business coach because I had a different coach at the time. But we're just trying to tell you that you can take a faster path or you can take the longer path. And those of you who are saying, I don't have enough money for X, that will always be your story. You will never have money for said program because you're not going to do anything different. And you won't do anything different until you get the tools to uncover why you're doing that loop in the first place.
Yes.
And that's the definition of insanity. Getting on the train every day going, God, I really hope it doesn't stop at that place today. It's all subconscious programming that got you into scarcity. So you got to get some tools, some support, some exercises and process to unlearn everything that's got you currently vibrating at the frequency that has the relationship you have, the job you have, and the friendships you have. Because everything is just vibrating at the same frequency as you are. And so that's why the closest next step is to get yourself around people who have what you want, who are vibrating at a different frequency than what you've currently manifested. Because your self-worth is a direct reflection, or everything in your life is a direct reflection of your self-worth conversation. That's why when people work with me, the first steps are self-love and self-worth. But I want to build my business, but I want to start my podcast. Cool. You'll sabotage your business and you'll sabotage your podcast and you won't be able to receive compliments and you'll blow it all to smithereens because you don't feel worthy of the success and you won't feel worthy of the guy when he shows up or the friends. Or you'll be in an event with Sahara and I and you'll be so stuck in your shit that you won't come up to us and talk to us because you don't feel worthy.
And what I see a lot of people have is this grabby energy.
Oh God,
how
desperate.
Can I grab,
piggyback,
take from other people, take from you? Like, people don't realize that in life, the way that energy works, it's a give and take. It's a push and pull. And we see maybe something that people want, and we're like, how can I just like suck that in? I call it like Kirby energy. Did you ever play Super Smash Bros?
Oh my God, yeah.
You know Kirby, the little
Kirby.
thing that he would like suck you up and like take your superpower for like 30 seconds. And
don't be a Kirby.
Don't be a Kirby. It's like, it's not about this like desperate, like, how can I copy Amber's content and, say
Sahara's
things exactly.
doing that.
Like I see people all the time, their social media posts are verbatim things I said in High Self podcast and they're not crediting me.
Ditto, babe.
And I'm just like, okay, that's not doing anything
Shame
for
on
you.
them. They're blocking their
they're blocking their own divinity.
Spirits.
And that's the thing, that people want to get credited for seeming, spiritual or business savvy or whatever it is that your niche is in. But why don't you actually learn from that person? And then you'll be able to come up with your own ideas.
And open your divine cosmic Google channel to the codes and the information and the medicine that only you can bring forth to the world. There's already Sahara Rose. There's already a freaking beautiful goddess, loving, twerking, freaking cooking Dharma, all the Sahara yoga path, yogic path. There's already Sahara Rose. It's taken. Okay. Right. Be you. We need you to be more of you. We don't need more Amber Valdez's or Sahara Roses. Please. Because you're just giving a big F you to the planet.
Yes.
Because you have your own unique divine medicine that I need, Sahara needs, we all need. And so if you're constantly looking at others and comparing yourself, your content and your programs and your offering are going to be more like Sahara and more like me, right? If those are the people that you're constantly trying to be like.
And there's nothing wrong with getting inspiration. I mean, think about how much like The Alchemist or even Deepak Chopra and all these people have been quoted, but there is a difference between, taking the quotes and putting them as your own, which we've seen
intellectual property.
People do. But also I think it's just like, we want to piggyback off of other people's ideas. And we're sharing this with you because had a lot of people realized this at the beginning of their spiritual awakening, it would have prevented them from getting into a lot of stress and drama and all of these things that show up when you're not trusting your authentic code. So if you're at this place that you're just awakening, don't try to be like, okay, am I a Buddhist? Am I a witch? Am I this? Am I that? Go under a category and just regurgitate the content. Allow your own channel to speak to you. And maybe it's a remix. Maybe it's a Buddhist witchcraft. We need more remixes. We need more authentic codes that are coming in that have never come in before.
Yeah, please. Because that's a part of all of our uprising and our up-leveling and our ascension is that we need your magic. We need your medicine. We need your unique fairy dust to come in to up-level us, and we can all continue to inspire each other, So I love the conversation of releasing the need to copycat and releasing the need to try to be like and learning to trust. And that really comes from connecting and doing the inner work. I heard something the other day on some YouTube channel about Ascension and about light workers in general, because I work primarily with light workers.
How would you define light worker?
Yeah, so I have a quiz for that if you really want to deep into it, but I'll give you basic context. So not everyone's a light worker. And just because you love angels or you love crystals or goddesses, it doesn't actually mean you're a light worker, right? Not everybody is a baker. Not everybody is a yoga teacher. A light worker is literally here to activate other people's light. Mm-hmm. So I am clear that my mission on this planet is to activate, support people in remembering their soul assignment, right? I radiate my light so bright on you and I become your biggest cheerleader and you're fanning your flame that I'm here to help you remember who you are, all right? So light workers feel this deep responsibility that keeps us up at night, that really makes us upset. I cry sometimes when I'm fighting for a student or a client to take a program and I can see their future. I can see what's possible. And I know that my programmer working with me is going to change their life. And I will literally call my friends because I fight so hard for people because I'm like, God damn it. Because I'm fighting harder oftentimes for people than they're fighting for themselves. Mm-hmm. And a light worker is willing to lead from the front lines. Light workers take arrows. It's not easy holding the torch. And because when you hold the light, the dark comes as well. And so a big part about being the light worker is realizing that we're equal parts of both and learning how to love our dark and love our light. It's not all love, light, and rainbows as much as I would like it to be. There's the yin and the yang, the light and the dark, the sun and the moon. There's contrast. We live on the plane of contrast. And so a light worker knows that they're here for something greater. They know that they're here to shine the light onto the darkest parts of their soul and the world. And so they're often healers. They're spiritual teachers. They're here to make sure that they leave an impact on the humanity. They're not in it for personal gain. They're in it because they literally got a stamp. And I think I read or heard somewhere there's over 2 million light workers in the world, but there's actually only 144,000 that will execute their soul assignment. And the reason there's only 144,000 to execute their soul assignment is the other light workers are going to be so consumed and distracted with their victim conversations and unwilling to face off with their inner child wounds in order to be able to serve. Because and that's probably why my whole messaging at the beginning was, I don't know why it was, but Spirit, I love myself, you matter, you're worthy, your purpose matters. And teaching individuals to own their worth and to learn how to heal and love themselves, because intuitively channeled, I knew that is the recipe to be able to be a light worker and to serve in this planet. And if you're still consumed to what your mom did to you when you were 5 or your dad did or what they didn't do, and you're still a victim to your scarcity conversation, your lineage, you're never going to be able to actually execute your soul assignment because you're distracted and you're consumed in the loop. And that's why the woman shared, there's only 144,000 that will actually break through that shit in order so they can be the container for the abundance and container to serve and to be able to give. And if people are like, I don't know why nobody's signing up for my programs, or I'm a healer and nobody will work with me, you're probably not owning your worth. So the vibration you're radiating out is scarcity. Can't tell you how many healers I work with. They're like, oh, well, my prices are charging barely anything, by the way. And they can't get anybody to work with them because no one can afford it around them. And I'm like, well, that's because you get to own your worth. You know, there's nothing spiritual about being broke. You know, and it's old patriarchy that, well, if you're a real healer and you're a real shaman, you won't charge. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Chiropractors charge, nail techs charge, garbage men charge. Why? Because I am in touch with my spiritual gifts. Do you think that I wouldn't charge? Girl gotta eat.
Well, it's because back in the day, if you were the local shaman or medicine woman, the village would support you. So you didn't need money, just like no one needed money. So that's where that belief comes from. Like in Thailand, for example, every morning we would go feed the monks. We would bring them food that we would make and we would give it to them so they could focus on meditating all day. Whereas today, I don't see anyone feeding me. I don't see anyone bringing food to my door.
That's right, girl.
I got to feed myself. So when people are like, oh, you shouldn't sell anything that's spiritual, it's like, have you tried to live off of
Air?
Yeah. Positive vibrations? Like those positive vibrations turn into energetic currency because that is the society that we live in. So I think a lot of us are, and that's a whole other conversation of the fear of charging your worth.
But you've done enough work, Sahara, to be able to receive for your gifts. And that's the point. Right? If you were still caught up in your victim conversations. And
I used to totally be.
Girl, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have $2,700 a week. And then for some reason, as a nanny for celebrities, and some reason still find myself broke. So it's like, no matter how much money you make, if you haven't done the work to heal those ancestral wounds and to upgrade your scarcity mindset, why do people freaking win the lottery and then almost all of them go broke? They
end up poorer than before they won the lottery.
It's because they don't feel worthy of the money.
Yeah.
And so they can't hold on to it.
This is why you got to take bookkeeping classes, guys.
That's right, girl.
The Capricorns are telling you to learn about
take
bookkeeping.
That bookkeeping, and then we'll hire you because we ain't going to do it.
By the way, Amber and I had a birthday party together with our dear friend Allison called the Cat Bash.
Oh my goddess. It was twerking, an animal print, and hella food.
Yes, hella
and silent
food.
disco.
Yes.
So yeah, guys, just trust in the
So you can have fun too, guys. Like what we want to share with you, like all of this stuff of owning your gifts and your worth and putting your own message out there. Do it through joy. Do it through fun. It doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be a struggle. You could be laughing and making mistakes and making fun of yourself the whole way. In fact, that's the only way you're going to survive.
Yeah, and I think that's the human. We take ourselves too damn seriously.
seriously.
And I think like as soon as we really realize like we're all just down here to learn to love, to learn some fucking lessons, and to get clarity on our soul assignment. And just follow the breadcrumbs of joy. Hang out with the people that bring you joy. Watch the shit that brings you joy. Listen to shit that brings you joy. Like I'm telling you, like that is the only vibrational frequency that you can manifest from is the space of joy. It's the highest frequency.
We celebrated that this Tuesday.
Oh my goddess.
So for my actual birthday, because of course I had to have 2 birthday parties.
Of course.
And you had your spa party, but we all came dressed in our sexiest and we danced for each other and made it rain on each other. And it was, calling in that sensuality and that abundance and that worthiness. It really was a worthiness ritual above all. And we can create these experiences for ourselves in a little practice like that, like a little ritual of like, maybe you just like, maybe you buy some fake money or you get real money and you just like let it pour on yourself and realize like, I'm worthy of this all, or, or whatever it is. Maybe it's your friends all complimenting you and that's really what you need, or whatever it is that you feel like I really want to be seen in this way or be honored or whatever. Give it to yourself in a ritual form with people who you trust and will support you in that vision, and you'll watch that show up in your reality.
Oh my goddess. Absolutely. The way we do one thing is the way we absolutely do everything. And it really starts with finding community, sisterhood. But first you got to give it to yourself. And I would say, the group of us that were there have done a significant enough amount of work that we could be in that vulnerable space to be seen in our.
And I was only able to connect with you guys because I was able to do that work. Even a couple years ago, I would not have been able to do that. I would have felt so much shame around my body and this and money is evil and and like all of the stories I had. And it just was such a great reflection for myself. I was like, wow, the fact that I'm surrounded by people like this just speaks volumes of how much transformation I've done, because I haven't always been surrounded by these types of people at all.
No. And I would have never been able to wear, a G-string with my booty hanging out and like dancing the most sexiest song and just being in my full expression had I not
and
done
all
some
of us
serious work.
as women celebrate you and not see that as competition, or she's a hoe, or she's going to steal your man, or whatever, to be like,
or is she going to be judging my cellulite or whatever, right? It's like that wasn't even on my mind, and what a gift. And I often forget, that there's so many women. I know a time in my life when I was addicted to exercise and had an eating disorder, and when I was a host, I was like a size 00 and didn't have a carb for 2 years, just super unhealthy, trying to find my worth based upon what I look like to feel control, which was all bullshit. And even then, looking at pictures of myself, I thought I wasn't good enough. And now here I am, probably 20 pounds heavier, like not looking at myself in the mirror going, ew. Or like back then, I would have never, even in air quoting, a perfect body, right? Would have never done that with my girlfriends back then, because I would have had so much judgment to myself in my 00. And here I am, whatever size I am now. But like, it's just so interesting. It's not the body, it's the mind, right? Even I was a skinny fat girl, if you will, right? Back then, because I didn't love myself. So it was never enough. No matter what I saw in the mirror, it was never enough. And so I've done a significant enough of work on myself that I look in the mirror and I love myself, and I no longer judge myself, looking at myself with way different eyes, and so now, because I love who I am, because you love who you are, we could be witnessed by our sisters. But you can't be witnessed by other people like that until you do the work on yourself first.
Yes.
And you certainly aren't going to be able to do your soul assignment until you can love yourself first or own your worth.
So true.
That's the first step.
Yes, I was just right before you came, I was writing this month's ebook in Rose Gold Goddesses, and this coming month's goddess is Lalita Sundari, who's the tantric goddess, and her description in the Vedic texts is she had a beautiful happy trail from her up to her navel, and she had 3 beautiful folds on her stomach and voluptuous thighs. And this is how they were describing her beauty. Whereas today, if they were like, she had 3 rolls on her stomach and a happy trail and big thighs, like we would have seen that as ugly. And they made it a point to share how beautiful she is by highlighting those aspects of her.
I love that. God bless that text. When was that written? Do we know?
I mean, it was written like text-wise over 2,000 years ago, but channeled orally for like 10,000 years.
Okay, guys. So 10,000 years ago, that was the trend.
Yeah. I mean, even like 100 years ago, like this whole like hairless, skinny, everything. There's a Tina Fey quote, and it's like, today's perfect woman has to have like volleyball player abs, but like the hairless, like an Asian baby, and like a booty like Kim Kardashian. Like we've taken all of these different things and put them together, and it doesn't exist.
It doesn't make sense. And women are having to try so hard to
they
get
They have to get
way.
Surgery to even look that way, because it's not possible for the human body.
It's not natural. And it's not what God created to be. And that's why I have my own story about the Kardashians, and we want every woman to know that like who you are is perfect and divine, because God made you that way.
Exactly. And there's nothing you need to change. Why would God give you a body that you need to get surgically manipulated?
Makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. Aging gracefully. Like I'm 41 years old now, and like I often feel like, okay, well, we're in this industry, and like, so many people are getting all this like lip injections and Botox, and like, I'm like, gosh, like in other cultures, they celebrate when women get older. Yeah. Like it's wise, and you get wiser as you get older, and it's beautiful. And like age is like stepping into the crone phase of your life is like your celebration of all that you've created in the world, and the mentor and wisdom you get to be. And it's like, I'm just excited.
We're suppressing our own wisdom. We don't want people to know our age, whereas our age should be something that's celebrated.
I had a girl, my best friend is throwing a surprise party for another friend. And this one girl who's in her 40s, and she's like a high profile DJ, and is a model and a DJ. Anyway, she's got a very unique look. She's not your average looking model. Anyway, needless to say, she wrote to my friend who's throwing the party and said, I really don't think you should post how old she is on her invite. It's her 40th. She's like, I don't think she's going to be real happy about you blasting out that she's 40.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other episode too, but it's like, why do we have shame around our age? We're like, oh no, like another year older. Like, why are we sad about that?
I'm excited. I sat with that last night, and I was like, do I have shame about being 40? I'm like, I love being 40. I I would not trade being in my 20s for my life. Like I was so confused on who I was in the world, and I had every job under the sun. I was looking for everything, self-worth or self-love. I beat myself up. I starved myself. I worked out 5 hours a day. I was so mean to myself. I drank like a fish. I was so, it makes me sad. Like I was so mean to myself, and it was beautiful. You know, it was absolutely beautiful. And I didn't see it because I didn't love myself. You know, I hated my nose. I hated my body. And I feel so much sadness for that woman. And I know there's so many women out there right now that feel that. And my heart breaks for them. And I'm at this age now, like I didn't have my spiritual awakening until I was like 35 years old. But like I was always spiritual, but I didn't have that like dark night of the soul come to Jesus moment. When I realized why I'm here was to be the cheerleader for others I never had, and to activate light workers and lead them to their soul assignment and lead the charges of Joan of Arc of light workers. But, you know, I feel so much sadness for the women that are still in that space. And I love being 40 because I know who I am, and I don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. And I just get to show up and say what I want and eat what I want and love how I want. And I no longer need anyone's like attagirl or approval. And it's so refreshing. And I just want every woman to feel that way. I want them to be able to get in front of their girlfriends and put on lingerie or no lingerie and just love their whole entire being.
So beautifully said. And do you have any practices for the listeners out there who maybe want to give love to that former version of themselves that was really hurting, that maybe that version of themselves really needs to be loved for them to step into their power today?
Yeah, I think one of the most powerful exercises for me that I've ever done is look in the mirror and touch the parts of my body naked, the parts of my body that I was most embarrassed. And so for me, it had always, for a really long time, I have like double A chest. I have a smaller chest. And when I moved to Hollywood, agents were trying to tell me to get my boobs done and my nose done. And I have a bigger nose, you know, and now I love my nose. But it was the thing I would go and look at as soon as I looked in the mirror, and I would look right to my breasts or my stomach. And so the practices I've used is to really stand fully naked in the mirror and to touch those parts of myself. And even if I find myself starting to judge my tummy, because I've been eating whatever I wanted and I've been barely working out, and I'm just like, I'm enjoying this part of my life right now. And I'll touch my stomach and just say, I love you. I love you. I love you, tummy. I love you. You know, at the time I was like, I love you, breast. I love you, booty. And I'll just like touch my nose and I love you. And I'll look at myself in the mirror and I'll do the Ho'oponopono prayer. And it used to be really hard for me to look at people in the eyes. And I had a lot of hard time with eye contact for a really long time. And I see it now. I see women who are insecure, unable to look at me in the eyes. And I think it was because I didn't like what I saw. And so I didn't even know I was doing it. And so a big part of this process would be to stand in the mirror and to look at yourself in the eyes and to say, I love you, Amber. Or I love you, Sahara. I love you. You're worthy. I'm proud of you. I see you. You know, I love you. I'm proud of you. I see you. And just acknowledge yourself for all the things, little and small, for being on time to work today, or choosing the salad over eating the fries, or whatever it is that, you know, and loving yourself anyway when you're in self beat up. You know, like Louise Hay was like a big mentor of mine. The book You Can Heal Your Life fell off the shelf when I was 19, and it helped me understand self-love and law of attraction. And it was like she was like my mom I never had. And she says that we're so mean to ourselves that saying I love myself and I approve of myself 200 times a day is rarely enough. And so anytime someone would break up with me, or a girl would be mean to me, or I get a mean text on social or whatever, and I find that little girl in me going, you know, and I'll self-soothe myself and say, I love you, Amber, I approve of you. Or if I don't get anxiety much anymore, but when I used to feel a lot of anxiety, an energy known as anxiety or labeled as anxiety because it's just an energy. Now if I feel it, I just drum or dance and it's gone. But I would say, I love you, Amber, I approve of you. I love myself, I approve of myself. And sometimes I would say that as I was crying in the car, and I would say it until I finally felt it and calmed down. And so I love myself, I approve of myself. If I got off stage and started beating myself up, or if I got off a podcast, I'm like, what'd you say? And that was stupid, and you should have said this and you should have done that. And I remember even starting to do that when we first met, and I came and drummed at your rose gold party, and I was just like, couldn't hear my drum, da 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 da. Like I was like, get off it. Like, who is this talking? This isn't even you. Like, it's perfect. You know, it's divine. But you know, she'll pop up sometimes, that little girl. And so if it's physical, touch your body. If it's not physical, stand there naked and say, I love you and I approve of you, and acknowledge yourself every day for what's working. That's something I give my clients. I'll make them do acknowledgments to themselves every day for 30 days straight, and I'll have them send me a voice note. But for you listeners, I would invite you to record that voice note and then listen to it. Hear yourself acknowledging yourself. And I've had so many women come back to me and saying, like, that exercise completely changed my life, because now I don't need my husband to add a girl me, or I don't need my mom or my clients or someone to tell me good job. Like, I'm full. I'm my own cheerleader. And so, yeah, naked acknowledgement, staring yourself in the mirror and touching those parts of your body that you judge, and listening to the sound of your own voice. And if you have a relationship with your mother that's good and or awesome and feels expansive, ask her to record a voice note for you and tell you how proud of you she is of you. And you play that for yourself every day for 30 days. It would be extremely healing for your inner child. So,
well, thank you so much for sharing all these beautiful lessons and wisdoms and anecdotes with us all. And where can listeners connect with you further?
I am Amber Valdez on Instagram. I haven't made the switch yet on the World Wide Web. I put the pom-poms down and no longer am calling myself the life purpose cheerleader, because I realized that mask and that archetype no longer serves me, no longer in a performer or need to be anything role. And so currently my website is Life Purpose Cheerleader, but it will be being converted to ambervaldez.com. So in the interim, you can find me at I am Amber Valdez and at lifepurposecheerleader.com. Soon to be ambervaldez.com.
Yes. Well, thank you again so much for sharing with all of us.
Thank you for having me. I love you so much. Thank you for all your light you are in the world. You're amazing. I'm so proud of you and so grateful to call you my sister.
Thank you, sister.
And everybody join Rose Gold Goddess. Oh, girl.
You're so funny. Love you. Thank you. How amazing was that interview with Amber? We really dove in and just spoke about, the things that have helped us, which are mentorship, support, having someone to talk to help us see that we're not crazy and actually guide us in the right way to use our powers. So if you are interested in getting support by me, that is through the Together We Empress Mastermind, which I actually had not even yet downloaded at the time of this interview. I would have spoken about it, but essentially it just came through, and Spirit really showed me that I need to help female entrepreneurs, especially get to the next level of sharing their message with the world, podcasts, books, all of that type of thing. And that is how the mastermind came to be. It is already half full. So if you are inspired, you'd like to dive deeper with me, with guests like Amber, who will definitely be teaching on the mastermind, then head over to togetherweempress.com. Again, that's Together We Empress with an E. You can find that link in the show notes, and I'm so excited to see you there. If you love this episode, I would love if you could leave me a review in the iTunes store. And as a free gift, I will share with you the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type. Simply email a screenshot of your review over to Sahara at eatfeelfresh.com. Again, Sahara, Sahara, at eatfeelfresh.com, and I will send you over the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type. Thank you and namaste.